Hi, it's Maria, and this is a continuation of yesterday's video where the doorbell rang, and so I had to end it abruptly. Thank you for tuning back in. Anyway, we were talking about flying monkeys. I just wanted to clarify what that was, because some people haven't heard of that term before. Flying monkeys are the monkeys in The Wizard of Oz that were employed by the Wicked Witch of the West. And the Wicked Witch of the West didn't want to do the dirty work, so what she'd do is she had these flying monkeys, and they would screech and do all these real creepy things. And they were like her partners in crime, but they were the ones that, in the end, they would take the fall, right? Because when someone hires other people to do their dirty work, they usually are smart enough to just say, oh, you know what, I'm not going to do it, so you do it, and you get in trouble. So that's why the flying monkeys have such a lousy reputation, because they screech and they fly, and they're just so yucky. So when there are people in our lives who do things that others have told them to do, and they really have nothing against us, because they don't even know us most of the time, and so they're just following orders. So they're kind of like lemmings, you know. They just do what they're told, and they're just obnoxious and gross. And so there are people in our lives that are actually just following orders, and a lot of times they have their hands out for the payoff. There is a man on YouTube, and he has a jet, and he has multi-million-dollar real estate investments and things, and so he did some type of challenge where he shaved his head, changed his persona, and he wanted to see if he could rebuild within 30 days and see if he could make, $10 million or $1 million from nothing. And so it was a really interesting seminar that he did. And so that's why a lot of people think, oh, well, so what? Everybody loses things. People go bankrupt 3 and 4 times. And so all of a sudden, just suck it up and get out there and get a job and do this and do that, and you'll be just fine. Well, yes, absolutely. But when there are forces beyond your control that oppose you and that are monitoring you 24/7, and every time you make a step forward, they slam the door on it. And so whether it's with people, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with a job, whether it's with a group, if you go to a spiritual center or a church, or all of a sudden you walk in there and they know you're coming, because whoever is opposing you has already warned them and told them all these horrible things about you. And so people just either ignore you, or they're rude to you, or they try to entice you so that then they can, really lay it on, and then they can really betray you. And so I just thought I would mention that, because yes, there are people who have come from other countries with 25 cents in their pocket, and they've been able to create fortunes and live a wonderful life, and that is what we all want, right? And so we don't want to be limited, because our limitations are usually self-imposed. However, when you are the target of a group or of a person or of some type of an entity, then everything you do is just shot down, and it becomes, you're almost cemented into a closet. And that's a good visual, actually. There is no forward movement. There is no air. The air is running out, and it becomes very difficult. And then you have all these emotional issues too, because you think, well, why are people targeting me? What did I do to them? And so you look at people suspiciously and you think, oh, is he going to betray me too? Well, and yesterday in the video, I started to talk about a man on my Facebook friends I'll just say his first name. His name is Anthony. And he messengered me or Facebooked me or something, and I don't know him, so I don't know how he got to be a Facebook friend, but those things can happen when you have an insider at Facebook, right? All of a sudden, people that you don't know say, thank you for the friend request. And you think, no, I never sent it. But anyway, he was an estate attorney. And, my big issue for the last 2 years here in Clearwater, Florida, is the estate that has been stolen from me and 10 years ago, and we're still fighting over it, or at least I'm trying to get it. Everybody else is just like happy spending it, and so they don't really want to give it to me. So they're all in hog heaven. But anyway, so this man was an estate attorney, and I thought, oh great, I'd love to talk to him. And so we exchanged some posts or whatever. And so he said, oh, I'm from Orlando, and I'll come to Clearwater and we can meet. And I thought, oh, that's good. And then I started to think, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Why an estate attorney would reach out to me? He doesn't know me, or he shouldn't know me. I don't know him. And he's obviously heard about me because he did actually send me a video about mediation. And as I've said before, I am a proponent of mediation because I think it's a more civilized way of handling litigation. However, I was actually mediated in some aspect of my divorce. And what I found is I actually ended that. I terminated the mediation. And what I realized is that at least if you're in front of a judge, the judge has certain standards and certain rules by which she must follow. And if she doesn't, then she's in violation of her sworn duty. Whereas in mediation, you have attorneys. And attorneys, as we know from Jim Carrey and Liar Liar, attorneys aren't necessarily looking out for what's right and ethical behavior, shall we say. And so therefore, here's what the other side is proposing. Take it or leave it, or do you want to amend it in some way? However, there are times when the facts aren't submitted, or the documents are so obviously forged and then there's so much perjury and things like that. So the fact that mediation, yes, is more civilized, also allows them to slip in things that in front of a judge they would be called to task, hopefully. So this guy sent me a video where he had been interviewed for mediation. I actually never ended up watching it because I just thought there was something very funny going on there. And in fact, I even asked him, I said, I have been involved in some legal struggles for 30 years. And I would just like to know up front if you know or know of or have ever been involved with Irene Hughes or Peter George, which is my sister and my son. And he said, no, never heard of them at all. Well, as it turned out, I do believe that he was working for them. I think that they hired him to approach me and to strike up a conversation and perhaps a fee arrangement. And he would be representing me, but really he would be representing them and trying to sacrifice me, actually. And so when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's totally unethical. And I didn't end up meeting him. And so although I have been made aware that he actually spent some time in Clearwater, probably meeting my sister. And so anyway, they can all have each other, but I want nothing to do with betrayers, right? And people that are pretending to be, available to help you in your litigation when you're most vulnerable, right? And so what they want to do is get all your information and your vulnerabilities and what you think and what you're willing to accept, and then take you down. And so I found that to be really very, very disheartening, actually. And so when someone says, well, yeah, so you lost everything, so they stole it all and just rebuild. Well, when I was told that not one attorney in the entire state of Florida was allowed to represent me, and then you've got this guy who's not representing me, really. And so I thought, well, what did I do? Why? is there so much money that there are so many payoffs that I won't have the ability to to be represented in a courtroom or in any type of litigation, really. And so, anyway, I just thought I'd mention that. That's like cheating. And I used to tell my children, don't cheat. And yet the biggest cheater of all was when we'd play a game, it would be my ex-husband, and he just loved to cheat. And sometimes my children would say, hey, Dad, what are you doing? You're cheating. And he'd say, oh, no, you didn't see that right. Anyway, again, when we talk about humanity and we talk about people moving forward and people carrying more light and people doing the right thing and people following ethical behaviors and just showing more love and compassion and kindness and gentleness to others. And then you see the contrast between that type of a mindset and the other type of a mindset, which is, I'm going to get you and I'm going to take you down and I'm going to ruin you and I'll do anything and everything. That there is a movie that you might have an interest in watching, and it's called Body Heat. And it was filmed in 1981, so it's a rather old movie, but you can find it on Netflix. There's Kathleen Turner and William Hurt. Those are the two main characters. And then the guy from Cheers, Ted Danson, he's in it too. But it's really an interesting movie. And so I don't want to ruin it for you, but I will tell you that Kathleen Turner plays quite the character. And in fact, I actually thought that my sister sometimes has modeled herself after this woman. And so I won't go into it anymore. It's just it just really struck me on a personal level. And I thought, oh, well, yes, I see how some things happen the way they happen. And so sometimes, they say that movies kind of are very reflective of the times that we live in. And I really, you want to see this movie, it's really good. Anyway, I'll leave that there. And so what else can I tell you? There were so many things that I was in the midst of telling you yesterday when the doorbell rang. So I was telling you that, I had a condo and my parents had a condo, and it was in the will and the trust. I was to get my condo, and then my sister would split the other one and gave my son the condo. And when I called him and asked him if I could live in my condo, he said, no, just go ahead and call my attorney. I'm not interested in talking to you. So he just chose money over a mother, but I guess that's his path. Right? Because we're all on our own path. And I know it sounds so dramatic and it's just like the movies, and there are so many similarities to all this dysfunction sometimes that we see in the world around us. And yet, you know what? The bottom line is we star in our own movie. And so whether we're Kathleen Turner or whether, the person that's opposing us is Kathleen Turner, and whether we're playing that Bozo the Clown, maybe we're just sitting in a circus with some really strange, big red-nosed, huge floppy shoes and big orange hair like Bozo, or there's some socialite that is just like, oh yes, well, it's okay if I stole my sister's clothes. I always wanted them anyway. And so, I did. I looked up the definition for envy. And envy is resentful awareness of success or advantage of another, enjoyed by another. And it's like an obsession to possess the same. And so we've all had people that are envious of us, because there's always someone who is better than us, right? There's always someone who is, if we want to be taller, if we want to be smarter, prettier, have a better personality, be more vivacious, whatever it is, a better cook, a better lover, whatever it is, there's always someone better and younger. And so those are things that we can't change, right? And yet we need to be comfortable within ourselves, and that we are the best we can be. And so we don't need to compare ourselves to anyone else. We need to compare ourselves to how we were yesterday and make sure that today we're even better, not going in the wrong direction, right? With more envy and jealousy and lying and cheating and stealing. No, we need to do a U-turn and go the other way. I did mention briefly that I had met a man in Santa Monica who told me that he knew my sister and that she has all these clones of my phone and that she basically walks around just watching everything I do, and if there's someone that I meet, then she will call them and meet them first, and or meet them second, or meet them whatever, or tell them that all these horrible things. And so she just closes every door. And initially I thought, well, that's just ridiculous, and how dare she, and whatever. And then I thought, you know what? I wasn't supposed to meet those people anyway, right? And so maybe there were some tough lessons that I was to learn with those people. So we never know. We just know that whatever is happening is perfect for our growth. And so when we can keep that in mind, and that's front and foremost in our mind, then everything else just kind of falls into place. And we can actually take things in stride more and say, oh, well, that's the way it is. And if it was meant to be, then it would have been, right? And so when I think of sometimes, though, the terror that I've experienced, which is when I was living in my car, because I didn't have a place to live, right? And I didn't have any finances. They had emptied everything. So all of a sudden, I didn't have the savvy that, what's his name? I think his name is Grant Cardone. And he's the one with the plane and has built himself many times up from whatever he's lost, or whatever, that experiment that he was doing where he, just had like $100 or something, and he was going to see at the end of 30 days how many millions he could acquire. And I thought, wow, that's really amazing. But that's not me. And that's not what I really choose to do, actually, because I feel that my path is really to expose what happens to some of us, and really all of us to some extent, in this time on planet Earth. And so as we expose that, then maybe we can make some changes in the government, in the laws, in societal norms of what they think is appropriate behavior and what isn't. And so we can't just let things go amok and we just say, oh yeah, well, it's fine, I'll just deal with it a different way. Well, sometimes we have to get to the root of the problem, because all of these other things are symptomatic. These are just the fruits on the trees, and yet you need to get down deep into the roots and say, well, how is that allowed? And who's in charge of that? And why are people suffering like that? We weren't born to suffer. We weren't made to suffer. And yet, yes, we're here to learn, but not to the point where it's so many crimes, where there's so many crimes and it's so criminal, and everywhere you turn, you're being smacked around. No. And so that was the whole why me, and that was the whole, even now with, I don't know much about the Epstein thing, but I don't think we're just to turn a cheek and just say, oh, well, that's okay. I think that we need to get down to the bottom of it and see what's going on and why that was allowed to fester for so long. In any event, let's see, what else can I tell you? So I was telling you about the Santa Monica man. And no, I don't have ADHD. I know I'm going from one place to another. But the Santa Monica man who said that, my sister had flown to Santa Monica from Florida to meet him. Or maybe he was a setup too. You just never know. Excuse me. But in any event, he did give me some really interesting information that I had to think about for a long time and just say, wow, I never knew. And even like 10 years ago, I remember that I had a friend in Florida here, and she was rather intuitive. She was kind of a psychic. And she said, you'll never believe who's behind all this. And I thought, who could it be? I thought I was from Chicago and I had that horrible divorce, and there was so much corruption there and stuff. And I just thought, okay, so maybe it's somebody from Chicago. Maybe it's a politician. Maybe it's a friend. Maybe it's a CEO, one of our friends. Maybe it's, who knows? Maybe I just didn't know. And I just never thought it was my sister. I mean, I knew that there was envy and jealousy and all kinds of things like that, but I really couldn't even imagine it, really. And I couldn't imagine that she'd be able to bribe or pay or what my children to never speak to me again for the last 17 years or something crazy like that. I don't know. I mean, I just didn't think any of this was possible. And so I guess I'm here to tell you that if you think it's going on, it probably is. And so now we have to figure out how we're going to deal with it. And the way to deal with it is not to hide it anymore. It really is to come clean. And it really is to confront people. And it really is to tell them, hey, who are you? Why do you think that you can meddle in my life? I couldn't care less about you or your life. And so what gives you the right and the entitlement to come in and really decide who I'm going to spend my time with and who I'm not, and how much I'm going to make, and whether I'm going to get Social Security benefits or whether somebody else is stealing them, or whether this YouTube video, will actually make it, because I know that my audience is restricted. I mean, if I look to see how many people have seen some of my videos, sometimes it'll say 2. and I thought, well, I've even watched them more than twice. So I just think, wow, that's really crazy. So anyway, and I did want to say that when I first started out, even in 2017, I was making videos and I wanted to introduce spirituality to people who maybe hadn't understood exactly what that was. And so I had my own little community of stuffed animals. And I had 16 different wigs, and I had all these outfits and tutus, and it was just so fun. I'd have different earrings on, and I had wigs, and I had, just all kinds of fun stuff. And I loved it. And then I realized that all of a sudden they decided I wasn't going to do that anymore, because I kept a lot of those things in storage. And all of a sudden, my storage unit, it was an extra space storage in Phoenix, Arizona. And all of a sudden it was broken into and all of my things were gone. And I thought, how dare you? It wasn't my livelihood, because I didn't make $1 from it. And I wasn't doing it for money. I was doing it because I needed to express myself. And I thought I was doing a good job of introducing spirituality to people that had never thought about it before. Because as I said in the last video, I was raised as a good little Greek girl. And yet I've never really become a big Greek girl. I was always a little Greek girl. But so anyway, that was that. And I thought, how dare you come in, steal everything? I mean, I spent a year acquiring different clothing, shawls and scarves and outfits and leggings with, gold polka dots on them, and bikinis and all kinds of things. And I really liked them. And I spent a lot of money on them too, money I didn't have. And yet, and I had a friend decided to take some pictures, and he was actually my videographer as well. He took the videos while I spoke. And he took about 12,000 photos of me. And so all of a sudden, that whole part of my life just disappeared, not because I chose to have it disappear, but because, my sister and my son, and I guess my ex was living then. I don't know. I think he died sometime around then. Anyway, the 3 of them, as I said, worked as a triangle, and to really destroy me. And so they decided that I wasn't going to make videos, and they decided, I'd post a video and then it wouldn't get posted. And so then I'd watch it again and I'd say, okay, well, maybe they didn't like this that I said because it was truth. So I would delete that. And then pretty soon I was deleting half of the videos. And then pretty soon they deleted everything related to that part of my life, and I wanted it to be like a fun, it was like a Saturday Night Live takeoff. Like sometimes I'd be really goofy, and sometimes I'd like slur my words, and sometimes I'd be giddy, and sometimes I'd be sad, and I'd be talking to my puppet, and it was just fun. But no one else has the right to interfere in something like that. How dare they? And so that's kind of the ego that has run amok, that has affected so many of us, by people that have absolutely no business in our life. In terms of even the people we date, their mothers are then the flying monkeys hired by our family, right? To say, oh no, they shouldn't be together because they make a really good couple. And so it's kind of like, no, I want him. And so she's taken over so many different people that I've met that never went anywhere, which is, probably is exactly the way it should have been. However, it's not up to anyone else to determine. Just keep your nose in your own business and leave me alone. It's kind of like running a race, when you run parallel with someone else, and then all of a sudden, they go this way and you go that way. And so that's fine. But you have no right to run into my lane and tell me where I'm going to go. You stay over there. And so I didn't even have $20 on me. It was ridiculous. And so I leased a Honda, though, and they made it very easy for me to lease it. And so I'm just wondering, yeah, that was probably a setup. And then ultimately I realized it absolutely was. And twice I saw cars within, a few yards of me. Well, not a few yards, but like not half a block, but I don't know, maybe 200-300 yards away from me, kind of explode. And I think that was a sign. Both, I think they set those up. And one was actually, I was in the Whole Foods parking lot, and just outside the parking lot, a car exploded. And another one, I was by the beach in California, and all of a sudden it was dark. It was starting to get dark, and all of a sudden I heard this car go clunk, 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 clunk. And then I looked up, and then it just went into flames. And I was having, with my Honda Odyssey, they sold me a car that had all kinds of things wrong with it. And it wasn't a sold, sorry, it was a lease. And that car had something wrong with it from the day I took it out of that parking lot. There were cameras all over it, and someone else, well, I think several people actually had fobs, and when I'd be driving along, all of a sudden the windshield wipers would go and the lights would turn off at dark, and I had a black car. And so people couldn't even see me, and sometimes there'd be people in the cars next to me saying, you don't have lights on, we can't see you. And I thought, oh my God, that's a really dangerous situation. I took it to like 6 different dealerships, and they all said, well, we don't know what's wrong with it. Maybe the electronic system is fried. But you know what? They knew. And I think there were just so many people being paid off in that one. And so the car was overheating, it was smoking, it was rumbling. And I thought I would call the dealership. It was in LA, and I was in Northern California. And they said, oh, just drive it down here and we'll check it out. And I said, you think I'm going to drive a smoking car to you? This is a leased car. It's under warranty. You need to fix it. You need to come up here and get it so that I can get another one or something, do it through some other dealership near me. Anyway, they were just totally, totally unhelpful. They were totally, totally bought and paid for, I think. And so I don't like to even say that, but there's a reason why so many things have happened, and they just don't just happen like that. There's always somebody behind it. I think that those cars going up into flames, I think that was to frighten me and shut me up. But as you can see, I'm not shut up. And so I have to tell the truth. It's the reason I'm here. I know it's the reason for my being. And so anyway, we just all do what we can do and do whatever we're guided to do, as long as we're helping ourselves and others. to tell the truth and be the best versions of ourselves. That's really all this life is about, as far as I'm concerned. It really is to take stock of who we are, not as a human, but as a soul, and to move forward knowing that we're doing the right thing, knowing that we are contributing to society, knowing that we are here for a reason, and that we have to use our gifts in order to help ourselves and others. And every time we can smile at someone, and every time we can say something positive to someone and lift their mood, then we're lifting our own. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful way to view life. Because, we do see so many people that are depressed, and so many people on antidepressants, and I mean millions. And so we can either fall into that abyss, or we can get ourselves out of it and see the beauty that we have, see the opportunities that are given to us. And I know, I can tell you all about all these horrible things that have happened to me, but I want you to know that they really do happen. At least they happened to me. And it was to make me stronger, and it was to show me that I won't be defeated, and I have to tell the truth, and that's why I'm here. And so, and when I've done what I'm supposed to do, I won't be here anymore. And so I can go to some other dimension or whatever, wherever we go. I don't know, but I sure would like to go see where my mom and dad are. That would be nice. And my Uncle George and my Nana. But anyway, yeah. And all the Greek relatives. But anyway, what else can I tell you? Oh, I told you when I was living in my car, in this Honda, until I got rid of it, and then I didn't have a car, like I still don't. I was in the parking lot of a mall, and there were like military-sized trucks, and they were doing maneuvers, and it was the strangest thing I had ever seen. And some of them were even driven by women, but otherwise they were driven by really hunky men, military type people, and they were just kind of encircling me, and they would drive down one row and then turn around and then circle me, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. And I told him, I said, well, I know, I went to tell the police about that, and they said, well, you really think that there are like 7 military trucks around you, or seven, what do you call those things? They're like 4x4s, or they're, I don't know, Chevy, I don't know what they are. Anyway, it's those trucks. They're like pickup trucks. So the police in Santa Monica said to me, well, tell me, if your sister were asked what diagnosis you have, what would you say? And I thought, what? I'm having this conversation with a police officer on the phone, and they want to know my diagnosis based on what my sister would say? And so I said, I really have no idea what you're talking about. And they said, how about delusional? And I said, oh, so my sister has called you and said, I'm going to call you and let you know that there are these trucks surrounding me, and you're going to not believe me because you're going to assume that my sister is correct in the diagnosis she gives you, that I'm delusional, right? And so they said, well, we can't take this any further. And I thought, wow. So the man that I met, he told me that it's not 7 trucks, they're 9. And I obviously wasn't seeing 2 that were part of this entourage, this part of this group. Oh, even when I made a dental appointment or a doctor's appointment, when I would arrive there, I would see my sister's car in the parking lot. And I know she has several cars, but they were just a little different than the others. It was something that I knew. I had a feeling that was hers. And so anyway, yeah. So even when we go for a dental, a cleaning even, or to a dental checkup, yeah, they're just right in the middle of our life. And it's like you think, wow, you don't have anything better to do, huh? And how sad for you, because I would never waste time thinking about somebody else. I'm just trying to take care of my own life and figure out how to maneuver my way through all this garbage. I wanted to tell you about the condos. I had started to tell you about that. And so it was supposed to be one condo for me and one condo for my sister. And so what happened was she said, no, no, no. She said my condo went to my son, which my father would have just been so horrified, because my son has sometimes has had some serious addiction issues, and the last thing my father would want is to be able to fuel that. No, even when he had asked for money from my father during his college days, yes, he was given money so that he could go, live a very high lifestyle, yes, in Dallas at SMU, where a lot of rich kids are. And so they just haven't learned how to handle their money. And so my son had to learn the hard way, I think, because then he went back to my parents and said, I need some more money. And my father said, no, you're not going to get it from me. So anyway, my sister said that, in fact, she and I were 50% owners of my parents' condo. And I thought, well, that's the craziest thing I had ever heard, because my condo had all of my things, and certainly my son was never to get it. She was to have the entire parents' condo, right? And so anyway, what happened was she said we were tenants in common. And then she didn't pay the Florida real estate tax. So the sheriff actually levied on the condo. And so eventually that condo was auctioned for $100. My sister and my ex-husband, who was involved in that as well, to take whatever assets I had. So the two of them actually bought my parents' condo, a luxury condo, a corner unit, just a beautiful condo, bought it for $100. And then within, I don't know, 2 or 3 months or 4 months, they sold it for like $500,000. And now it just sold again, and it was on the market for 1.1 mil. And so I think, wow, that was an interesting way of finagling things, right? Instead of one condo for one daughter and another condo for not the other daughter, all of a sudden give this one to someone and then split this one, but then give her half to her ex-husband, and then sell it, and then give it to the sheriff, and then the sheriff, I guess, I don't know what happened, but the sheriff auctioned it off. And in fact, you know what? One day I looked out my kitchen window, and there were all of my things outside on the ground with yellow tape around it. And there was a deputy standing there with a gun. He had a gun, not pointing at anybody, but on his strap or whatever. And so they had all my things. They had my baby pictures. They had clothes that I was saving of my children, and even my own baby clothes and things like that. I mean, and my diplomas, my master's and my all of that stuff, and my books and things like that, and my crystal that I had, and silver, and all kinds of stuff like that I was storing in my parents' second bedroom, because my father said, don't keep it in your room, because she goes in there and helps herself to your things when you're not home. So he said, put it in my extra bedroom, and she won't be able to touch it there. Well, little did he know that she was going to get rid of him and then take everything. So there was like yellow tape, caution tape, all around my things, and I couldn't even go down there. I didn't want to go down there, because I think that they'd say, if I said, you know what, that's my baby picture, they'd say, oh, you're causing a disturbance and we'll have to arrest you. And I thought, oh my gosh. So all of that stuff is just gone. And it's the way it rolled, right? It's just, some people have such a warped perception of not only themselves, but the world. And so they find such joy and such satisfaction in knowing that they're causing pain to another. And I think, wow, that's very sadistic, actually. And sorry for you, because I just wouldn't want to live like that. I just don't have a mean bone in my body like that. And that's just on you. And so anyway, that's that. I don't know how long this video is, but I think I'm going to end it for now. Give you a chance to kind of digest some of this information. And truly, if there's anything I can help you with, or if there's any questions you might have, or if you want to know a little bit more about how I was able to kind of get through all this with a smile on my face. I didn't always have one, obviously, but in the end, I think I'm just glad I'm me, and I'd much rather have been me this whole time rather than to have been someone that was cruel and mean and envious and just miserable, trying to strategize and ruin somebody else's life. You know, when we just take care of ourselves, then we find satisfaction in how we are handling our life, because it's really not about what happens to us. And I think this is very key, actually. It really isn't about what happens to us. It really is, how do we respond to it? And so that really shows our character. That really shows who's inside here, who's deep inside, and who's deep inside the mind, and who's deep inside the heart. And so when we can respond without anger, without hatred, without envy, without jealousy, without all of those yucky emotions, then we've really overcome so very, very much. And so that's the key. It's to just stay centered, stay grounded, and know who you are, and that you're not going to stoop to somebody else's level and do crazy things. I mean, you're going to rise as high as you possibly can, right? That's what I think. Anyway, all right, I'm going to let you go, and I'll tune in another time. So anyway, I love you. See you. Bye-bye.